everyone. I'm Dan Washburn, Operations Manager for Shaw Renewables with the Shaw Group. And this is Julie Griffiths, our Quality and Sustainability Coordinator. And we're going to be going over today our journey to Lean. Our presentation is going to consist of going over how we chose our continuous improvement opportunity. We're going to talk about Kaizen SMED event that we did. We're going to go over sharing Lean within our organization and how we moved it to our briquette production process as well.
So first, just a quick, why are we going Lean and why are we doing this? So one of the big things that we've taken from the training with Chad and Jeff is to eliminate waste. But while you're thinking about eliminating waste, it's also important to think about Muri and Mura. You can see them in the picture here, and it's overburden and balance. So when you're rejigging things around, you need to make sure that you also balance them and that people aren't being overworked. It's all about making things more efficient for our employees. So by doing that, we're going to optimize resources and increase efficiency, which will give us better safety, quality, and delivery. We'll have less tied up capital, and we'll have more cost savings. And another thing, when we go Lean, we're empowering our employees, which is really important. It's going to help standardize processes, so everyone's doing things the same way. Everyone knows what the process is, and it's really well documented, and we can also brainstorm solutions together. And what's that going to do for us? It's going to reduce employee frustrations, and it's going to decrease turnover. It's going to give us clear objectives and have consistent processes, and we're going to end up with more innovative ideas by brainstorming with our employees.
So before deciding, we kind of made a list of our opportunities we might have to work on during this course. So we started with managing inventories such as FIFO and JIT, better training programs, film changeovers, roll shells and die changeovers, hammer mill changeovers, startup process efficiency, which has been an issue for us, and 5S'ing different parts of the plant. So what we ended up deciding on is our hammer mill changeovers. So there's some reasons here. The main reason for me was I wanted to pick a project that kept our employees engaged and would really have an effect on their work day to day to keep them engaged for future events that we want to have. So when they're dealing with these changeovers, there's long downtime hours. It's quite demanding labor. Employees showed quite a bit of frustration. There's no standard progress, poor ergonomics, potential for injury, and it's also done outside all through the year. So inclement weather plays a big part. So with all those together, we thought this was a good place to start to keep everyone engaged and interested and moving forward. So just a little bit about the hammer mill. It's a 500 horsepower hammer mill. It breaks down our in-feed into usable parts to make into pellets and briquettes, which we will show you later. The hammers require a quarterly changeover, and it consists of 8 rods, and on these rods are 280 hammers and 356 spacers pushed out with a sledgehammer inch by inch. So there's a lot to keep track of and a lot of work to go into it, so we wanted to make that easier. The average changeover time has been approximately 12 hours. This was our project charter as well before we started.
So the best way for us to tackle the hammer mill changeover was through a SMED Kaizen event. SMED is a single minute exchange of dies. So it's basically looking at a process, taking it apart with the team, and then putting it back together in a more efficient way. So basically we carefully selected our team. We really used, was it number 9 from our sessions on how to do a good Kaizen event. It was really important in picking our team. We had, process owners, which were the people working on the front line. We had someone from management. We had an external person that didn't know anything about the process, and he was really important in asking questions that, people that do the process every day don't really think about. And we were really fortunate to have Jeff on our team. When we weren't really sure of where we were going with our Kaizen, he was able to give us guidance, so it was really helpful. So basically, we first started out by, this was our plan for the day. We brought lunch for everyone. That was kind of the buy-in to get everybody there and excited about it. And while everyone was eating, we kind of did I did a walkthrough of what lean is, what the different types of waste are, what we're going to be doing here today, and I explained everybody's role. And the frontline employees were basically our process experts, and I think it was really important for them to realize that they are the most important people in the room, and they're the ones that are going to be telling us how we can make this change for the better. So we lay out the ground rules for discussion. We talk about this is what we're focusing on for the day. We're not going to talk about this. We're not going to talk about that. But if you want to get that down so that we can talk about it later, there is an opportunity to do that, which I'll show you in a second. And basically, so we first go and do an FO board, which I'm going to show you. The process map is basically mapping out the process and showing, through that, we're able to look at the process and say, well, look at these things that we're doing in the process that can be done external to the process. And that was really important to realize that we can save time and have less downtime just by doing those things before shutting down. And then we identify some key problems in the process, and then we go through and brainstorm solutions, and then develop an action plan to come out of this to assign tasks. And a way to pick the best problems, we kind of looked at our value graph, which shows effort required versus the value and the benefits. So things with big value with low effort are the gems. Those are the things you want to do first. And then there's other things that are quick hits that, we don't even need to have a Kaizen. We can just go and do those things. We can just say, okay, that's going to be done, and move forward with it. So one of the great things that we found, and in future Kaizens, we also found that this was a really helpful thing to do at the beginning. It's the FO board, and I know what you're thinking, but it's actually frustrations and opportunities. But it allows the team to express their frustrations that they've brought into the room. They've been brought in, they haven't been listened to, and that's how they feel. This is an opportunity for them to get that off their chest so that we can move forward with clear minds about, with the objective at hand. And then the team feels supported and valued, and so we were able to come up with a lot of frustrations and opportunities. We were able to come up with future Kaizen projects from this, and also things that we can move forward with on that particular day. So this was actually our current state map for the way that we do the hammer mill process. So all of the site preparation, we identified can be done external to the process, but we actually shut down before we even start that. So we shut down, then we gather our team, then we gather our parts, then we gather our tools. We don't have kits prepared and things like that. So those are mini Kaizen events that can be done in the future to make this even more of a streamlined process. And then we go through and we look at the things that have the most value in focusing in on, and this was the actual changeover of the hammers.
Okay, so our changeover before was very, how would I call it, repetitive. So basically, you can see the hammers here. So we would have to hammer it with a sledgehammer, hammer the rod through, drop the hammers, and then hammer it back and replace them. So that was for each one, and we're talking 280 times with 356 spacers in between. It was very repetitive and long time outside and a lot of repetitive motion. So that's something we really wanted to work on. The hammer as well, that's something that, you're hitting a really small spot there. So that's something we wanted to improve on as well and hopefully get out of the process. So each rod took 1.5 hours for around 12 hours total, like I said before. So through our first Kaizen, that Julie talked about, we came out with a series of actions. So first of all, it was to use never sees on the rods, so they'll come out quicker for us and easier. Tap the whole rod out at once. So we came up with a procedure where we would push the whole rod out just at once, and then have the hammers ready to put back on. We pre-machine the rods to eliminate the sledgehammer, which I'll talk about later, and collect all our tools and parts externally to the process, which we found out on previous jobs that it was constant. An employee was running back and forth, we need this, we need that, we need this, so it was important to have everything ahead of time. Okay, so this is where we went into our actual SMED. So you can see by the first 4 there, those were our last 4 hammer changes, and the time it took. So you can see 14, 12, 14, 18, and through just one Kaizen, I think it was 4 hours, we were able to decrease our time by 50%. So you can see this is it here for 6 hours and 40 minutes. So a huge improvement on, not a huge amount of work from us and our employees. So that was really promising to see. So through the implementation, we came up with a safer job procedure. There was a 50% reduction in changeover time. Like I said, the rods took 45 minutes each instead of 1.5 hours, and we've significantly reduced the workload. So with being able to hammer the rods straight out, you took away that having to hammer every few minutes back and forth. We were also able to tap the rods. So this is something that we're going to be looking for on our next SMED event, but we are able to tap the rods, so now we'll be able to pull the rods out with the puller instead of actually instead of having to use the sledgehammer at all. So that's going to first of all eliminate the risk of the sledgehammer and hands being involved, but it's also going to sorry, I'm blanking here. It'll first of all, you can move ahead, Julie. I'm blanking here.
This is actually going to be a video. I wish we had the video before and after.
Yeah, I was thinking that was the video.
Yeah. So before they would hammer ahead this much and then go back, put the new hammers in, move ahead this much, then back, then put the hammers in. So now you're going to see in this video, it's just like literally 2 seconds. Oh, maybe it's not going to play the video. It's not going to play the video. But anyway, this basically just pulls out all at once.
Okay, so I think that's what screwed me up there, yeah. So yeah, in this video you can just see the rod coming right out and the hammer's just dropping to the floor.
Like there in the picture.
Yeah, which saved us half of the time. And it's going to give us, we're hoping, about 50K potential divisional cost savings, which is significant for us.
Oh,
there it is. So that would have been done, that part alone would have taken about 10 minutes, so you can see the significance.
It must have been satisfying for the guys to watch it come out like that.
It was, absolutely.
It was a really strenuous job. You had 2 people sometimes to do the sledgehammering because it was so strenuous hitting the sledgehammer. You'd have to trade up, so it was great.
Okay, so after we did this process, we sat everyone down for about an hour, and we did another Kaizen event. So the benefit of this was everything was fresh in everyone's brain. So the frustrations that they had dealt with through implementing it, and also the big thing was opportunities. So they went through the whole process and found, oh, there's some other stuff we could do here. So the benefits of doing it right after, there was familiarity with the process. The employees were engaged and sought improvements because they just saw it cut in half. So that's as engaging as it gets to see that they're not going to have to be out in the middle of January for 12 hours anymore. We got a new list of FOs, 5 new actions, and potential to reduce time by another 50%. So we believe by the next time we do it, we can get it down to around the 3-hour mark. Jeff thinks a little better than that.
There's still more there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take it a step at a time. It's optimism,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. So the actions we took from our second Kaizen, use a puller to remove the sledgehammer from the process. We're going to put in an eye bolt and be able to pull it right out. Sorting and cleaning spacers completed external to the process, and tool kitting to reduce the number of trips to the tool room. And I think this one has a video if it works.
Yeah, just to show the sledgehammer.
So you can see his hand there. That's what I noticed first, was his hand is right there with the hammer coming at it. So we actually changed that process mid-event. So we said, you can't have your hand there. We need to develop at least a tool for today. So we were able to give him a tool so he could stand back and they could hammer it in. But that was something interesting, that they could see a change pretty much instantaneous.
So yeah, so as you can see from what Dan just went through, the Kaizen loop is just going to continue and continue and continue until the impact over effort is minimal, until we don't see, there's no value in holding these anymore. And then basically it's similar to the PDCA. So the plan is having your Kaizen event, going through the process with the employees and figuring out a better way to do it, and then doing that new process and then checking, is this the best way to do it? Is there another way to do it? And then acting on that and planning another event and just cycling through the PDCA loop over and over and over again. So some of the good outcomes from just doing that Kaizen event in the first place was we were able to share our learnings with other divisions. So we had a manufacturing meeting, and we were able to bring ourselves there and teach everyone how successful our Kaizen event was and how motivating it was for our teams. And we got buy-in from the teams. They're all willing to do the process the new way, and it came from the ground up. Secondly, we've been facilitating Kaizens at the other pellet plant. We actually had an event just last week on improving production during uptime, and going into these events, you don't really know where it's going to go, what the mood's going to be, but everyone had so much to say that there were sometimes two people talking at once, and we had planned on spending about 15 minutes on the FO board, but we ended up spending an hour. Everybody had so much they wanted to get out, but we took the time, we went through it, and it really helped us in getting a really constructive conversation going afterwards. And then we have another 5S event planned for December, and Jeff's going to come help us with that, so we're really hoping that we can fix up our tool room and get it more streamlined as well. And then we just wanted to quickly also share this. So when we initially started this lean training, our plan was to work on our briquette line, which is a new line. But when we found that the hammer mill process could have such significant improvements, we decided to kind of switch partway through, but we wanted to show you some of the successes that we've come up with from this as well.
So I'll just go over the current state. New product, late 2022. The briquettes are packaged as they are produced, which is limited by runtime. Value stream mapping was needed, and a capacity of 5,000 briquettes per shift. The problems we started to find, there was limits to our production capacity. There was a number of defective briquettes, and also packaging concerns, as you can see right here.
So the first thing we did was we made a process map of our current state, and we did this with the operator of the equipment, and we actually timed all of the different steps, and we were able to determine just by doing that again, a lot of these things were, we had our briquette machine being shut down, and then all of these steps were being carried out when we didn't really have to do that. We could have had someone else, we could have balanced the load a bit more and passed that on to somebody else so this machine could continue to run. And those are just one of the small findings from that.
What we're finding, we have a lot of potential in our process. We've already implemented bins, so you can see down here. We're trying things and going back. So we tried the bin. We found that the bin works. It's just that the big metal bin is a lot. So now we're gonna move to plastic bins, but it allows us to have a 24-hour production, but with only one packager. So what we're moving to is we'll have the bins fill up with the crews that are already on overnight making pellets, and someone can come in and package out of the bins that would be 16 hours of production. So that doesn't really increase our overhead for personnel anyway, and increases our capacity by around 200%. So it was a huge difference. Other opportunities we have coming, obviously our packaging here. You can see we started with a normal sheet size. We ordered a lot of them, unfortunately, but started with a bigger sheet size, and it was thinner. So what we found when we would shrink wrap is it would all suck in, and just it didn't look professional. So we've moved to a smaller piece of paper, heavier, and we only, we might not have thought through all this before this course. So it's helped us to really look at everything with our production line, our packaging, and improve it. Waste briquettes we're still working on, the moisture control of the infeed, and evaluating the quality of our reject parameters. So that's where we're moving in our journey to lean. I just want to thank Chad, the course